this is Carrie Vicanti with Stampiphany, a great stamping idea, and this card is called Icicles in the Window. I'm going to show you how to make these cool little icicles that show in my window here using crystal effects. Now this crystal effects I think sometimes kind of gets put on the shelf and gets a little forgotten, but today we're going to get it out and we're going to use it. So what you need is your silicone mat, and mine looks a little messy because I do love my silicone mat and I use it quite a bit, and you need your crystal effects. And this is something that when you get done you want to lay it off to the side to dry. It isn't something that would be done in 5 minutes as far as the icicles, but it is definitely well worth the wait. So what you need to do is take your crystal effects bottle and just gently squeeze it, and as you squeeze it, drag it down to create that icicle look. Now you can see the technique. I'm actually dragging it down, and as I drag it down I squeeze the bottle less and less, so that means there's less of the crystal effects coming out, and so it leaves that little tip really thin like an icicle would be hanging off your window or your roof. Now this next line that I'm going to do it a little different way. As you can see, I squeezed out a little bit more, and the look I'm going for here would be maybe slime or even paint drippings coming down, and you can see it's a little thicker. And oftentimes you'll see that I'll go back up the line just to make sure that the end of it looks a little like a big drop or something. And so what I would do is get your silicone mat out and your crystal effects and just kind of play with it. I think that's the best way to kind of get a good feel for how you want things to look, is to just get it out and just try different ways of doing it. And so that's what I was doing here, just kind of playing along with it. Be careful not to squeeze too much out as you go. If you do squeeze too much, what ends up happening is it looks great the first couple minutes, but then the crystal effects starts to blob together into one big blob, and that's not what we're looking for. So I would just be careful of that. So once you get done, you'll want to lay your silicone mat off to dry, and it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to dry. And what I've done in the past is I've just made a bunch of these little icicle things, and then once they're dry you can peel them off and store them in a plastic bag and use them for a future use. So the card and how I made that, and all the supplies will be listed off in the bottom of the description box here, so you can see what we need. And this is what the crystal effects looks all dry. It just is like this plastic feel, and I'm going to use you can't really color it with our markers. You need maybe your Copics and alcohol marker to color it, and I have another video coming out shortly at the end of the week that'll show you how I did that. So what I have here is some Night of Navy cardstock and some new DSP cardstock from the catalog. I'll look up, the name of that will be in the description box. The name kind of escapes me right now, I'm sorry. But anyway, I just love the snowflake paper. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. I kind of have a weakness for snowflakes. Pretty much any stamp set that's come out in the last 18 years with snowflakes or snowmen, I think I've probably purchased it. So, and I don't think I've sold any of them either. I think I've hung on to all of them actually. So I just have a regular size card. Its finished size is 5.5 by 4 1/4, and that snowflake cardstock or DSP right there is just 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to take this stamp set with the trees, and I'm going to ink it up with my Mossy Meadow. I had tried to do this with markers and it just didn't work out the way I wanted it, so I decided that this worked better. I just took my blender pen and I basically lifted off the color, the Mossy Meadow, wherever I didn't really want it to be. And I just used my blender pen to do that and just squiggled it off on some scratch paper. That blender pen works really well to do that. Just lift that color off in a little area. If I would have taken a Kleenex or something, I probably would have gotten more off of the trees than I wanted to get. So that blender pen, the little tip, works perfect. Once that color's lifted off, now I'm going to go back in with my Early Espresso and color the trunk of the tree. And use my Soft Sky and use that to color in kind of the snow line there along with the trees. And so once that's in there, it's ready to stamp. So I'm going to breathe on it a little bit to weten the ink. And when you go to stamp this, make sure you look at the trees and make sure that the trees are straight up and not try to make a straight line with that snow line, because that'll stamp your trees crooked. And that's well, I guess it depends on what kind of trees you want. If you want some crooked trees, then go for it. I, however, wanted mine straight, so that's how I did it. I'm going to go back in with my blender pen now. I'm going to take that little line of soft sky, and I'm going to add some soft sky to that to just kind of give it some shading along the bank there on the edge. And we don't have to do too much. This is going to be looking through a window, so you don't have to get too detailed with it. But just add a little bit so it gives a little visual interest and stuff. And then I'm just going to add a little bit to make it look like there's like a little hill there. And I often use my blocks for just palettes. I just love to just take my markers and scribble them on my acrylic blocks and just use those because they wipe up clean and they're nice and slick, so you can gather up the color and you're good to go. So once your trees and your snowbank are colored the way that you want, we're going to go ahead and start assembling our window here. So here's my window cutout. This is a framelit from the new Holiday Mini catalog, and we're going to add our icicles to the back, and I'm just going to use some of my fine tip glue from the Holiday Mini to do that. It works great to do little add little pieces like this. So you can see I put a thin line across the top of my window, and then I'm just going to add my dried icicles that I made. And I'm going to make it to where the flat side is on the back. There is a flat side and there's a rounded side. I want the rounded side to show through the window to the viewer, so I'm going to make sure I put that the right direction. And then you can just snip these off with your scissors. Really super easy. It's not sticky at all, it's just a piece of plastic. So, except for my scissors happen to be sticky for some reason. I'll have to get those cleaned. But I just trimmed that excess off. You can use it for something else. And then that's dry. So we're going to add, I want some dimension. I felt the card looked better if the window was up off the card a little bit. So I am going to add quite a bit of dimensionals on this because I don't want it to kind of sag or bow anywhere on the front of the card. I want a good solid window to be up and not be off a little bit by sagging or something. So you can see I've added quite a bit on the back, and I've peeled all the back, and now I'm going to put that over the top of our stamped trees. And this window die cut is just really cute. I'm so glad that they brought this out this year. If you don't like the middle crossbars there in the middle, you can always just trim those off with your paper snips and just have a completely open window if you want to. I left it with this card, but you could do whichever works for you. So we're going to finish assembling this card. We're going to layer the window onto some Night of Navy cardstock. Get that centered on there. And this is a great simple card. This would be a pretty easy one to do if you wanted to make a few for Christmas or holidays, or even make it into a birthday card if you have someone who has a birthday in the winter. And just put that on the front of the card. I happen to use my fast fuse, but you could use snail if you wanted to, or Arteran tape. I think it would totally work. So once you get that centered on the front there, I'm going to add a little bit of some of our white baker's twine. And I have a snowflake left over from last year's catalog. I have kind of a slew of them in my stash, so I just yanked one out of my stash. We do have some really pretty ones in the new catalog too. I just happen to have this one on hand and decided to use it. So I'm going to use a glue dot to put that off to the side. I felt that worked the best because it is metal, it's kind of heavy, so you need something strong. You could use the Crystal Effects to glue it on too. I just happened to use the glue dot. So I'm going to tie a little bow with my white baker's twine and attach that to the front of my little snowflake. The snowflake is a charm, so it has kind of a little area or a little loop hanging off of it so that you could hang it off of something. So I could have hung it off of this baker's twine, although I chose not to do that this time. So I have the bar pointing downwards, and I'm just going to glue this bow to that bar. And it covers it up just a little bit, but it also gives a little place for my baker's twine to go, so I'm not covering up my snowflake, because I did want to have a snowflake on there. So I'm just going to use a little bit of my fine tip glue. Just put a little bit at the bottom of that snowflake. And I'm really glad that this stuff dries pretty quick, so it doesn't take too long to do that. So now that my snowflake is on my card and my little bow is on there, it's time to put a little greeting on there. So I've pulled one of the greetings out from the same set that has the trees. And at first I was kind of going through and thinking, okay, you know, maybe I'll make this into a little banner. This will be really cute if I do that. So I cut one of the banners from the small treat bag Thinlits that we have. And it just says Happy Winter. And I thought, well, maybe this will look cute with a little banner end on the bottom. So I stamped that and cut it off. And I like how small these little words are. When you go to stamp the words, one caution when you're stamping them is make sure you don't stamp them, press really super hard when you're stamping them, because it makes the letters kind of swish out and makes it difficult to be able to read them. But as I was looking at the card with the little banner, I thought, nah, I don't really like how that hangs down. So I went ahead and just trimmed off the banner end there and just left the Happy Winter just like it was. So I'm just going to take a little bit of glue and put that on the front of the card. Sometimes cards, when you look at them, you think, oh, that's kind of cute, and this was one of those cards I thought, oh, it's kind of cute, but then the next day when I had a fresh pair of eyes, I really liked it. So sometimes when you're staring at something for a while, you have to walk away and come back, and then it's nice to look at things with a fresh pair of eyes. And so I really do like how this card turned out, and especially with the icicles, I think they look great. I hope you'll give this a try and make all the icicles that you need coming this winter. So enjoy and have a fabulous day.